This was me at around 30% body fat. I had zero confidence, got no attention, and I struggled to make progress. This is me now at 15% body fat. I have more confidence, get attention from girls, and I'm actually proud of my body. In this video, I'm gonna tell you my no BS approach to losing fat, 100% guaranteed, so you can get similar results to me, but in way less time. Number 1, being in a calorie deficit is non-negotiable. If you've been watching fitness content for some time, you probably heard of the term calorie deficit, right? But you never really understood what it actually means. A calorie deficit is basically that you eat less food than your body needs to maintain its current weight. So why this is important in the first place is because this is the main factor when it comes to you actually losing body fat. You know, you can be eating healthy and exercising, but if you're still eating too many calories, on a day-to-day basis, then you're not gonna make progress even though you're actually doing the right habits. So how do we actually get ourselves into a calorie deficit? The simplest way for me personally has to be to track my weight for one entire week. And gauged on this, we can see if we're gaining weight or if we're losing weight. So what you do, and this is so basic, you just weigh yourself every single morning, after you've gone to the bathroom, and you don't drink or eat anything before you weigh yourself. Then once you see the number, you just write it down in the notes on your phone. And next to that, you have the date of the day. And that is pretty much it. Track the weight and the date next to it. Listen, I know exactly what you're thinking right now. Oh, I don't want to do this stuff. It seems so complicated. Like, I just want to make progress. Why make it hard for myself? It literally takes you 5 minutes out of your day to do this. So don't be lazy for once in your damn life. Like, be honest with yourself. Do you want to stop looking like a vending machine or not? This is the minimum requirement I can ask of you to actually start making progress. After you tracked your weight for a week, if you gained weight, then you need to eat a little bit less. And if you lost weight, that is great. But what I will focus on instead is to improve my food quality. Now, if you're serious about changing your body and want me to personally guide you step by step along the way, to lose fat and build muscle at the same time, get more confident, get more attention from girls and all that good stuff, then click the first link in the description. Now, an easy way to make instant progress that I noticed myself is to simply clean up your eating environment the first thing that you do. It's so easy for you to actually start eating better once you don't have these bad foods around you, snacks, chocolate, or whatever you can think of, easy to access in your kitchen, for example. So if you feel like, you're struggling with impulsive eating, you can't stop yourself from having the bad foods because they're easy to access, then this is a great way to counter this. Simply clean up your eating environment before you do anything else, and this will make a massive difference. I will replace snacks and chocolate for better alternatives, like popcorn, fruits, and Greek yogurt with honey. This way you can still enjoy yourself without being really restricted. When it comes to sugary drinks, then I will go for sugar-free alternatives instead. They're pretty much identical in taste, but without the extra calories from all the sugar. Number 2, stop relying on super intense cardio. I don't know about you, but when I first wanted to get in shape right, the only thing I heard over and over and over, when it comes to fat loss, is that I needed to do crazy amounts of cardio. People kept talking about these high interval training sessions and, runs on a daily basis. And here's me, right? I didn't do like any cardio before this. So I got so discouraged because, I couldn't go for runs every single day. That was way too much for me. However, what I found, through trial and error was that you didn't need to do these crazy amounts of cardio to actually make progress. I found a better solution that I will tell you about right now. What I personally did instead that gave me better progress was to do low intensity cardio combined with some form of resistance training. And in my case, it was weightlifting. This was the complete game changer for me. And I made so much faster progress. Now, why it's so important to not only, focus on doing cardio is because you're not putting any more muscle on your frame. Sure, you will get better endurance and, you can run for longer distance, but you won't look like any better. Be honest with yourself, right? You want to look better. You don't really care about losing the fat or the weight. You want to be looking good and feeling good at the same time, right? I can probably guess the physique that you want right now, and I'm doing the same thing. You want to look lean, right? But you want to have also a lot of muscle on your frame. Because if you just look lean without having any muscle, right, you're only going to end up looking skinny. And that's not what we want to do if you actually want to look aesthetic. Now, what I personally did to get started was going to the gym 3 days a week and combining that with more walking on a daily basis. I think this is the simplest approach because, walking is something we already do every single day. And you don't really have to go out of your way to do it. To also help you along the way, I'll include a 3-day workout routine on the screen right now that you can copy to get started. Now, as of doing more walking right, the personal goal that I set for myself every single day was 10,000 steps. Now, this completely depends on your lifestyle. If you have a more sedentary lifestyle, you're sitting down at work and you're sitting down for most of the day, then maybe you don't need 10,000 steps. You can do 7,000 steps and make great progress. The only way to figure this out is by doing it yourself. So how do you actually track the steps that you do on a daily basis? The easiest way for me, right, is just to get one of these, some kind of smartwatch, whatever you can think of. Now, there are free apps on your phone that you can use as well, but from my personal experience, they're not accurate whatsoever, and they either overestimate or underestimate. Now, sure, this isn't 100% accurate as well, right? But it's so much easier to use it. You just put it on, you tap on it, and then you can see your steps, and that is pretty much it. Now, when you combine some form of, resistance training with low intensity cardio, when you put these two together, that is the perfect formula to get way faster results. Now, on top of that, right, you also build so much more muscle to your frame by doing resistance training on the side. If you only decided to do cardio, like I mentioned earlier, then you will only end up looking skinny and nothing else. And that's not what we want to look like. Remember, if you want my personal help to transform your body, just like me in this picture right here, to get more confidence, get more attention from girls, and the list goes on, then click the first link in the description. Number 3, progress will not always be linear. Too many people, and this was me included as well, especially when I first started, we put so much emphasis on, changing our body from day-to-day basis that we put our entire self-worth into it. That's exactly what I did personally. If I didn't change my body or, lose weight on a day-to-day basis, I felt completely trash about myself and saw myself as a complete failure. Now, why this becomes a problem and why I mention it to you is because some days, right, even though you do everything correct, you're eating better and you're exercising, some days you will still have gained weight even though you did all the right things. And this is completely normal. The progress will not always be linear, because of multiple reasons. Maybe you had dinner way later than you used to, or you drank way more water than you used to, and because of that you have extra water weight. Why I'm telling you this is because I want to make you mentally prepared of not getting disappointed, because some days in the future, and this will happen, you will have gained weight even though you did everything correct. Don't rely too much on the number on the scale, but more so that you look good and that you feel good. Let's say your weight stayed the same for 6 months straight, right? But you gained a lot of muscle and you're getting way stronger, and on top of all that, you actually look good. Then who cares about the number? Now, tracking your weight right is a good metric still to follow because it's easy to do and it's a good way to see if you're making progress. But don't make that the only way for you to actually see progress. Listen, the most important thing that I want you to remember is that you start eating better and moving your body more on a daily basis. Just see this as a test from your brain. The days when you don't see the progress that you want to, see this as a test where your brain is trying to make you quit, but you're gonna continue anyway because you know that you're doing the right things. In the grand scheme of things, the number on the scale don't matter as much as you actually think. Focus on looking better and feeling better. You put on more muscle and all that good stuff, and if the weight is remaining the same, then it doesn't matter whatsoever. You know internally that you're improving yourself and you just have to keep going. Unfortunately, right, this scale has become this massive thing that people follow, on a day-to-day basis, and they make their whole life depend on it, their happiness and whatever you can think of. So if you see yourself gaining weight or losing weight, then don't feel any different about it. Focus on just building more muscle, eating better and moving your body more, and with time the weight will go down if you just keep going consistent. Don't put your happiness on the number of the scale. That will literally make the journey 10 times harder than it actually has to be. Number 4, consistency will always beat perfection. I don't know about you, but when I first started with fitness, right, I had this weird mindset where I thought to myself that I needed to do 100%, everything correct from the start, or I wouldn't make any progress whatsoever. I thought to myself, right, that I would be able to work out 5 days a week and, eat healthy with every single meal, without having any experience whatsoever. But this was just setting myself up for failure. You know, I was able to follow this routine of working out 5 days a week and eating healthy with every single meal. I could only do this for 2 weeks until I got overwhelmed, and then I decided to quit. So what was the point in the first place of doing too much? It was once I started to take, the slower approach and actually take my time to build consistency, by improving the eating and the exercising over time. That's when I actually started to see really good progress to my body. Just like in this picture right here. I noticed besides making progress to my body, right, that I was just enjoying the process so much more when I took the slower approach. Going to the gym and eating better, it didn't feel like a job that I hated going to. I was actually excited for my workouts and eating better because I didn't feel the need to rush the process. I was gonna make this a lifestyle for myself and nothing else. Not something temporary, that you do for a couple of weeks and then you go back to your bad habits. This is what I want for you as well. Don't put that much pressure on being perfect. If you can focus on being 70% consistent and you do that for long enough time, trust me when I say this, you will make so much past the progress than you actually realize. Now, if you feel like you got a lot of value from this video, then consider clicking the first link in the description where I will personally guide you, step by step along the way to build more confidence, get more attention from girls and all that good stuff. You will lose fat and build muscle at the same time, without making it complicated. No complicated diets or workouts, just you and me working together and enjoying the process along the way.